డిస్టర్బ్ చేయకు. Thank you, Pawan and Sarupa. We'll just wait for 2 more responses and then. Okay, cool. We'll just get started. Okay, so today's session's agenda would be on 4 things. 1, what is a feature overview? Like what exactly this feature is about and why we have created in the first place. Then 2, how do we configure it? 3, how different organizations are using the features already, both read and write and a combination of read and write. And what are the different possibilities of integration for your use cases? So firstly, why we have created this? So one thing which we have commonly observed across all the different NGOs is their love for Google Sheets. We have seen a lot of organizations have started using Google Sheets more. And like, again, in your organizations, it's not just one team working on the whole chatbot program. Often there are like multiple teams working. So there'll be like a curriculum designing team who creates the curriculum. There is a team who writes the content of the whole chatbot, and there's a team who analyzes the data. There's a team who works on creation of the flows on chatbot. So there are like multiple teams working, and not necessarily everybody has the knowledge of how to create a flow on a Glific platform. So most of the times the Google Sheets have been used to like share the content or update the content. So to make that communication easier between you, and to ensure that you are not creating every flow from scratch to make the change the content of the different nodes, to make this whole things easier, we have integrated Google Sheets with the Glific platform. So there are 2 ways which we have integrated. One is read from Google Sheets, 2 is write to Google Sheets. So the read from Google Sheets will help you in those cases where there are like a repetitive work, that repetitive content that needs to be updated. For example, you have a certain structure in place. You are like basically collecting, say, you are sending up certain activity to the students, you are sending a certain quiz, like 3 quiz questions to the student, then you are asking like a feedback question, then you are sending some additional content. So there's a certain structure for your flow. But the content is getting different based on any certain category. It can be different for different courses. It can be different for different like a segment of teachers or different stakeholders, etc. So in those cases, ideally, you have to like create a copy of the flow, then you have to update the content. So to make that easier, we just integrated the Google Sheets where you can read it from the Google Sheets. So the structure would remain the same. The content of each node, it will be getting updated through a Google Sheet structure. So this makes it easier when there are multiple teams working. So you can ask your team members to just update the content on a Google Sheet, and you create a base structure, and you can like automate it in such a way like the content is getting auto updated. So I'll quickly show on how this can be done. Any questions till this part? Okay, I take that as a no. So the Google, for creating any Google Sheets, like to integrate in a flow, first you have to create that Google Sheet itself. So here I'm like saying I'll add a sheet, like I'll just take an existing sheet as an example. So this is a sheet which is there. Again, you have a sample here. So I have created this particular sheet where I'll just hide these things in the interest of clarity. So this is like a sample sheet. So the first column of all the sheets will be a key. So this is like a key identifier for the flow and the sheet. So I have to first create a sheet format in which I want the data to be updated. So I'll just create a sheet like, hey, how do I want this sheet? Like right now, I'm just creating a sample sheet. I'm saying, hey, this is the date, and this is my message that I want to be sent, and this is a video link that I want to be sent. So the key can be anything. It can be a date, it can be a name, it can be a number. I'll explain what this key and what is the prominence of this key later on. But yeah, this is like a base structure. Like we have already added like a sample, which you can refer. And I will, like, whenever you're creating this sheet, like just make a, like maybe whenever you check this sheet, make a copy of this sheet and then ensure that it is not in a restricted mode, like anyone can have the access to the link. Copy the link address and add the link here and just give any name to the thing, sheet. I'm just giving level up Glific as the name. So right now I want to read from this particular sheet. So I like the content of this sheet. I want to get it into a flow. So I'm just selecting read as my selection. I'll save it. This is a syncing. Then I'll go and create any flow. So I'm just starting a new flow here. So in this particular sheet, in this particular flow, I'm trying to tell, hey, first collect users, say preference number, like maybe users worksheet code. Like I'll take an example of how KEF has used it. So I'll say, hey, I'll ask the user, hey, send me the activity number for which you want the video. So I'm asking user for a particular input and I'm saving the input in a particular, like a variable name activity. So now what I want to do is, based on whatever the number that they have given, I want to get it checked in this particular sheet and send them whatever the content that is corresponding to that. For example, if their activity number is 1, 2, 3, I want to send them activity 1, 2, 3. If their activity number is 4, 5, 6, I want them to get activity 4, 5, 6. Okay. So I'll just, so every time you update a new column, new column or new data in this, so there is like a button that gets, it's more like a sync or refresh. So you just have to click that so that the sheet gets updated with that number of columns. Now, one second. How do I hide this? Anyways. Is there a way for me to hide this? Hide floating controls. Yeah. So now I have asked them for their activity number. Now I'm saying link the Google Sheet. What is my action? I want to read from Google Sheet. So now I'm saying, hey, from this level up with Glific Sheet, now I have to say, go to this level up with Glific Sheet, read this particular thing. Now I have to say which row I have to match with. For example, I want to match this particular row. And what is my key, which will like my number, which will match this particular row is this one. Key is the column. So I'm saying like whatever is the first column, I'm giving this 1, 2, 3. For example, I'll just give an example of simple 1, 2, 3 right now. I'll say select a row here. Sorry. So I'm saying like, hey, activity number, like whatever the user is giving as an activity number, check that in all the columns. First, it will check to come to the row column 1. It will check here where this 1, 2, 3 is. Here the 1, 2, 3 matching is coming. So it will send whatever the content of this particular row is, like whatever I would want to pull it. So I'm just giving @result because I have saved it as a number, like on a variable activity. I'm saying, say, get the activity, match this in this particular, wherever the column 1 it gets matched, and just send it to me. I'm saving it right now. I want to send the content of this particular row, like whichever gets matched. So I want to send this particular, for example, I want to send this content of this particular column. So I'll say, I'll check the header message 1 underscore English. So I'll say @ results dot sheet, because it's coming from a sheet. Then I'm saying message 1 underscore English, whatever is written here. This is for my sake. Yeah. So when I have to check, like do a preview, it first asks me like, what are the content that I want to send? I am currently sending 1 to 3. So whatever, like when I send 1 to 3, this result is saved in this particular variable and it makes a check here. So it will check all the rows, and wherever is 1 to 3, it will stop, and then it will see which column I want to get a match. So I want this particular column MSG1. So it will check here and send this. So instead of MSG1, I said VID1 underscore English. I'm giving 4, 5, 6 as an example here. So now I have got both the things, like I have put something incorrect here, but yeah, otherwise you'll be getting both, like whatever the contents of this particular cell in this particular thing. Any questions till this part on how to write, read from Google Sheets? Hello.
Nothing till now.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Sarupa. Cool. So I will tell you how different organizations are using this particular feature. One, Digital Green and Arogya World are using for scheduling their content delivery for prolonged duration. So I'll give you an example of how that can also be done. 1 second. Okay. So in this, you need not always put a result variable only. You can use it in different ways. You can also have like a calendar date. Like what is it? @calendar dot current underscore date. So this will actually help you to, whenever you are having like a individual calendar date. So for example, like the way Arogya World has used it is, they have a certain frequency at which they want to send the advisory to their users. So they already have added like which dates they want to send it to. For example, on 28th they want to send it, and then like they want to send it on 1st. So they have added all those dates. They have added all those content which they want to send, and they have created a flow which will just check for the current calendar date. So every time this gets run, it will come to the sheet. It will check which current calendar date it is matching to and send that particular content. And for this flow that they have created as a standard one, they have created a trigger. So like they have scheduled that, hey, this particular flow needs to run every single day, so that every single day it will run and check like if the current date is matching, and then it will send the content accordingly. So here you can use a result variable, here you can use a contact variable, you can use a calendar date. So there are a lot of things that you can do, like which one do you want to match it in the particular sheet. So that's one very interesting way that Arogya World is using it. 1 second. And then Lahi is using for changing content of a particular flow on a regular frequency. So the way Lahi's use case is like for one of their programs, Delhi Job Fair. So they have a particular flow and the content of which needs to be changed on a regular basis. So for that, they have used they have set the particular structure, and the content is always picked from the sheet, and they have a different key of identifying it every time. So that's how, like, whenever you have a standard structure, you just want to change the content. So that way you can actually use it. There's another way which TAP is using it, which is very similar to how Dahi is using it, but they have a differentiated content based on their contact information. For example, a particular school child is preferring coding, so they have a particular row for coding. They have a different row for art. So based on whatever the contact information is, so it will first check the contact variable and then make a match. If the contact variable is coding, then it will send the content that is related to the coding. So these are the different ways on how read from Google Sheet can be used. Any questions on this part until now? Or any thoughts that?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
So I'm Ritu Varghese from Bharat Rohan. So we are using this Glific platform to send advisory to farmers.
Right.
So in this, can we as you said, like this Arogya will be giving through advisories, giving advisory.
Right.
So we are like we want to send prescription maps, or like we want to give advisory for the disease or pest detected in the farmer's field. So can we update that content there? And when the farm, like if he wants to check like three advisories he have got, where for the pest and diseases, can he get it from there when he types a certain keyword?
Yes, that can be pretty much done. We just have to configure the flow according to your use case. You just have to have one identifier, which like whatever they are sending, if it is matching to a particular row, you can get that started for them, or like send that particular content for them.
Okay.
Yeah. The way Digital Green and Arogya World works is they send to their users. So initially they collect a certain information from the users. They ask them like, hey, for example, Digital Green, which is also working with farmers, they ask them like which crop they are working on. Like, for example, if it's a groundnut, then they ask like, what is your crop stage? So is it just in the stage of where you are adding a seed, or it's in an advanced stage? So based on the stage, they decide like a keyword, and on a regular frequency, they have a set frequency, like every 10th day they'll be sending this, 15th day they'll be sending this. So they have configured the whole Google Sheet integration and clubbed it along with the triggers so that the advisory can be sent on a particular day to a person. Was that clear?
Yeah. Thanks.
Yes. Any other questions, any other thoughts on how you want to use it, or like any doubts that you might have?
Hello.
Hi,
Hello, Krishna, Saurav, Quest Lines. So I'm thinking, so for example, based on what you've shared, this can in some sense also replace the flows, right? So I'm just wondering if we use it intensively, because people will be interested in using sheets to have their content.
Sure.
So will it have any side effects, or will the messages be delayed or something, or?
Okay, so let me clarify. First, it won't be replacing flows. Like, again, it's not like an automated kind of way where you're just filling up the Google Sheet. The flow is getting created from scratch. That's not there. Here, the flow skeleton should be there. The content of the whatever the nodes, individual nodes are, that is coming from the Google Sheet. So the skeleton, or like the way how you want the flow structure to be, still needs to be there. So this is like a add-on, or this will make your job easier when you have to like update content, when you have to do it on a very regular frequency, or you're working with the teams who are not using or familiar with the Glific platform, but it won't replace it. And in terms of the time, it won't affect as such, because like it's just like syncing a Google Sheet, and the content is coming from the Google Sheet. So there is no lag as such even if the content is coming from the Google Sheet.
Okay.
Yeah. But just like, I just want to call it out again, this won't create any flow from the scratch. The existing flow, you can like pick the content, like wherever the content needs to be changed. For example, in this case, which I show, like it's a very simple example where you don't know what activity number they'll type. So you don't know what they'll type. So you just can put everything there and then just keep on sharing it. For example, in your cases, maybe you just gave like a school ID to your teacher, and instead of you asking for a whole big school name, you're just giving a small ID. and you don't know if the ID that typed it is right or not, so that you are sending further updates. So you can just have a match in the Google Sheet and say like, hey, against 1, 2, 3, the school name is KV Bhandu. So you can just go back and send them like, hey, is your school name KV Bhandu? Just to make like a confirmation. So those kind of things you can do. That makes it much easier for you to do whenever you're using a Google Sheet with a certain information already there.
Sure.
Yeah. Any other questions or any thoughts on how do you want to use it?
By the way, I think we may use this to capture district data or schools data, because with buttons, sometimes we have lots of options.
Exactly.
Like if we have districts or something,
Right.
maybe for that we can use it.
Yeah. Like again, like when you have a doubt, like sometimes people just tend to send the wrong number. So it's for you to cross confirm, like you can say, hey, is this name right? So that they are able to relate better.
Sure.
Yeah. Any other questions, thoughts? Cool. I'll quickly move on to the second part on write to Google Sheets. So till now we have discussed how the content that is already there in a certain Google Sheet, it can be fetched and brought it in a flow. So again, like you can keep whatever the length of the flow is, you can like get it as much information as possible. A lot of organizations have used it along with interactive messages also. So this content is put as in the interactive message and then the buttons are added like a yes or no. So you can think of n number of ways of how you can read from Google Sheets. Now, another important point is writing to Google Sheets. So currently how your data gets captured. So all your data goes to the BigQuery, and whichever team wants it, you generally have to query from the BigQuery and get your relevant data, or you have like a dashboard setup that is being done, which you want to pull it in a certain format that you want. And again, that's one way which is definitely great for a data analysis perspective. But for example, if you want to save like a very quick info, so registration is something that is happening, and you want your operations team members to have like a quick view of how many registrations happened, like maybe just like a very simple tabular format of like what's the name, phone number, school name, etc. So instead of you querying every single time from a BigQuery, trying it to get in a format that you want, you can simply write it to the Google Sheets. So as I said, like Google Sheets is very easier to like have like a structured data collection in a simple Google Sheets. And also like it will save your time from actually doing manual updates multiple times. So I'll quickly show you on how to write to Google Sheets. So now I'll use the same sheet. So in this, I'm saying now I'm asking another question to my user. Send like, hey, what is your name? Then I want, okay, so sorry, before that, before you again, because just like how we are saying like, hey, this is how I want the Google Sheet to be there. I want to also give the sheet in which the data needs to become, right? So again, I will have to start like a sheet, like again, I have a test sheet here. I'll just use this for simple sake. So this is my plain sheet. So this is the sheet in which I want my data to come in, like whatever data, like I'll define what data should be come and which row the data should come and which column the data should come. That is something which I'll define. But I'm just first giving like a plain sheet. Hey, this is the sheet in which I want my data to come in. So I'm just adding a sheet link. I'm just writing Chris test sheet. I'm clicking on write because I want to write to this Google Sheet. I'm just saving it. Then I will use this. So I said like, hey, what is your name? I want this data to come into the Google Sheet. Wait, sorry. I'm just saving it in a variable name. Then I'm linking the Google Sheet again. Now action, I'm saying, hey, you have to write to the Google Sheets. Then I'll first define like, hey, which Google Sheet I wanted to write to. So my Google Sheet name is Chris test sheet. So I'm just giving like, hey, which sheet I want it to be like. Again, you have this is my sheet. This is my sheet name. So I'm like, you can actually add multiple tabs also when there are multiple tabs. This tab name is quite helpful. So I'm just saying sheet 1, do it from A to D. So it will take from A column to D column, or like if I want to add like a header in my row number 1, I'm just saying from A2 to D, you just add whatever data I want. So I'm like, now I said like which sheet to add, which columns or rows to add. Now I have to tell the Glific what to add. So I'm now first saying like I have collected the name. So I'm just saying @results dot name. So whatever I want it to be here, I'm just adding it. So I'm just saying like here, this is to be added. This is just for my testing purpose. Saying 1, 2, 3. So I'm using this activity like from read from Google Sheets, and it's asking me what my name. So if I go back in A2, it got started. So if I add more columns there, so I can add up to 10 rows here. So like whatever, like I can add results, I can add @contact, or if there is a submission also, I can, like if there's a calendar date, if I can take any submissions, submission URL can be added. So a lot of those things can also be added. So like if you want to like organize whatever the submissions you are getting, the URL, the captions, all these things, you can just keep on adding in a particular row. So up to 10 different things, you can just add it. You just have to click on additional things and you'll just get like the 10 rows can be added. So up to 10 columns, you can add data. So this is how you can club, like whenever you want a data to be stored in a particular Google Sheet, you can just add these things. Any questions? Like here, it's just not to results. It can be like contact, calendar date, submissions, any data that you want, like in general that you save, you can just keep it adding. And just language. So it'll just add the language of it. Any questions, any thoughts on how this can be used?
We can have read write turned on for the same sheet.
Yes, you can add. Like we had an issue that was going on, but that bug is now fixed. So in a same sheet, you can add, have both read and write.
Okay.
You just need to have this double check.
Okay, so for our use case for this is we have some people who work on the grounds, and we'd want, you know, sometimes they need to update some information which need to be consumed by a certain group.
Right.
Hence, in that direction.
That can be pretty much used. Like I'll speak about how Antarang and Digital Green are using it by clubbing both read and write features. I'll just cover it up in a minute.
Sure, sure.
So hi Krishna. So
Hi.
along with this, actually, can we update the contacts also so that those values can be stored in the database?
The contact number, yes. You're
Suppose that
contact number, right?
yes. No,
Yeah.
contact number. No, I want to update the contact fields also. Along with the Google Sheet,
You can
I
do
want
it. Yeah.
that.
For example, like in this sheet, like I have currently taken as a result, right? I'm just saying I'll update the contact. I'll say activity number. I'm just giving a random name, okay? @results.activity. Now here I'll just connect it, and here instead of @results.activity, I'll say @activity dot like whatever contact.activity number. So like even for the updating contact, you can definitely do it. Or even just like if it's a contact variable already there, you can pull it every time. So this is basically what you want to match. So it can be anything. It can be like a date, it can be like a variable from the existing flow, or it can be a contact variable. And I hope you're asking about the read feature, right?
So write feature only. I was asking for the write feature only.
How do you want to update the contact here?
No. So the whatever response, actually, I want to store it in the Google Sheet also and in the contact variable also.
That can be done. Yeah. So this one is just like you're saying here, add it to the Google Sheet. But in general, if you want to just update a contact and then add it to Google Sheet also, it pretty much works the same way.
Yeah, got it.
So this is just like an additional one. It doesn't take the advantage of the other things that are already in place. This is a where you can actually save it in the Google Sheet also.
So you mentioned about that adding multiple tabs also possible. So how we can refer that
For example,
second tab?
great. Thanks for asking that. Here I have said sheet 1. Now I'll say sheet 2 if I'm having additional tab. Again, if I'm giving a particular name to that, like sheet 4 is a type. If I'm saying the name as tab 1, then I'll refer it to as tab 1. Yeah. Again, here is a small guideline on how to understand the sheet range. Again, the reason why I added A2 is because I want to set up like a standard header so that like the teams which are actually using will know what this particular thing is about. So I just added from A2 for my convenience sake. So there are like, I'll just give you a quick examples of how Antarang, Digital Green and KEF are currently using, exploring, at least like KEF is in exploration mode, Antarang and Digital Green are already using it. Antarang and Digital Green are using it to save users' query because they want to form like a helpline or a help desk sort of a setup. So the way they are currently using it is, in this particular flow, here I just ask for a username. So here they'll say like, hey, whenever you have a question, probably send like a keyword help. Okay. And they'll have a help flow ready. In help flow, the first question will be, hey, what is your query? Whatever the query that is coming in, they'll just save it. Like if it is a media, if it's like a whatever, like they'll just save it in this particular format. And then they are writing it to Google Sheets because they have certain teams who actually like the subject matter expert and who is able to resolve that particular query. And so that the teams who are actually resolving the query or know the answers for the queries might not be the ones who are on Glific platform. So they are like getting all the user information or all the user queries on a Google Sheet. So they have structured their Google Sheets in such a way that like the first column would be the phone number, the second column would be the name, the third column would be the query that is actually asked. Again, the queries can be taken in the form of a media, voice note, any media format also, if not the text. So that way they're actually saving their queries, etc. to the Google Sheet. I'll also cover a bit on how they are forming it on a help desk in a minute. And secondly, KEF is using to save users' registration details. Again, the basic registration details, whatever is coming. Now coming back to the help desk. So it's a very interesting way where they have clubbed both read and write features. So the way they have done it is, if there is a help desk question, so they will get the questions in a Google Sheet. For example, this is my name, this is my query, I want help with XY. So this, but like they are they're storing the queries of the users in a particular Google Sheet. And the team which is actually working or like answering the query, they will write the answers here. Okay. Here is how you can solve it. So the team who is actually answering the queries are encouraged to add answer all the queries in one more column. And now they are using read from Google Sheets to actually go back and send these answers to the users, because they have a phone number. So every time it will check the contact details, like whichever contact has this phone number, they'll go back and send this answer to them. So they'll say like, hey, here's how, like you have asked a question, this is what your answer is. So they're using like a combination of read and write to form like a help desk sort of thing. So again, they'll create like a small flow on how this answers can be sent back to the users. Maybe there'll be a date and there can be a trigger like, hey, what frequency you would want to send these answers. And sometimes the frequency you might want to have, if it's beyond 24 hours, the structure of the answers, like the initial structure of the answers can be like a pre-approved template with a variable, and the variable will have the answer. So that is how one way where you can form a help desk sort of things where you can answer users' queries also with a team who is not familiar with a Glific platform. Any thoughts, questions on that?
KP, I have a question.
Yeah.
I missed asking that. A person raised a concern that we cannot like read and write the same sheet. So in the tab,
It is, yeah, it is resolved now.
so
I'll
KP, but when
check back on the issue, GitHub issue again. But yeah, we have raised.
yeah, because even if I tried now, I cannot. If I have linked a sheet in the read feature, when I do a write feature, and there's a drop down for all the available sheets.
Yeah, I
sheet,
have only
it's not.
raised that issue. Like, let me check on the GitHub issue again, if
Yeah.
that's resolved or not.
Also, I have two questions which we can take maybe at the end. if
Sure.
possible.
You can actually like ask now. That's not a problem.
So I just wanted to know if at the moment this sheet integration feature is supporting interactive messages. I tried. The message didn't get sent due to the characters that were there in the button. But like, is it like resolved? Because like last year this thing was not there. Because then we
For
can.
yeah, the customization that was done for tab is majorly like the Google Sheet which was created for tab is majorly customized for tab. So that's slightly different than the Google Sheet that is available for all. Like answering your question, both yes or no. So again, the interactive messages, if you want what buttons, like what is the content of the button also, then we have to like separately like we are like working with only few orgs who asked on a consulting basis, where you are just adding the content in an Excel sheet, I mean like a Google Sheet, and even the content on the button is updated from here. So that is something which we have done only with a couple of organizations like OBLF, TAP, and Pehle Akshar Foundation. That's not done for everybody. But in general, the generic interactive message that can be used is, again, in an interactive message, you just create an interactive messages. The buttons would be standard. The content of the button cannot be changed at this point of time. But whatever the content that goes along with the buttons, that can be pulled from the Google Sheet. So Lahi is using in that way. But if you want to update the content on the buttons also, for example, ABC buttons, you want to like change it to XYZ every time, or like different things every time, then that needs a special customization, which we are doing only on consulting basis with few orgs. But if you all think that something which is commonly used by everybody and commonly needed, we can definitely build that out. But yeah, we would want you to let us know if that's a need.
Yeah. So KP, for the need part, of course, we would be getting back. Like if we want to transition to the main feature, just
Sure.
wanted to check if like still we need to reach out to Glific team to hard code a particular column or not. Maybe we can just try it out if we need to do that.
Generally,
Also,
it wouldn't be hard coded. Generally, you should be able to add, and in a certain structure that is giving, like in your case, if there are three options, like they are separated by like a hyphen or something, right? So that can be
yeah.
like, it shouldn't be hard coded. It should be customized. Like it should be changeable by yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your second question, Tashi?
It's on the part like if I do a read write feature and just loop it, like any, like was the issue figured out?
Let me confirm on that. Like the last time I spoke with the developers, they said like it is fixed, but let me check and confirm back on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good. Yeah. So one, like definitely we would want you guys to try it out and let us know how do you want it to further enhance it, so that we can make this feature like Google Sheet integration more stronger, which will be more helpful for all of you. Okay. Any questions or any thoughts that you want to discuss? Hello.
So yeah, Gibby, in the meanwhile, I tried out this feature of interactive messages. It supports sending interactive messages from Sheet itself. It does. I got the message.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Cool. So we just want to give you a couple of updates. So before that, I just want to throw out a quick poll. Could you please, like, a poll must be on your like screens already. Could you please give like a quick feedback on that before we get into like a couple of updates that we want to give? Have you got a poll? Can somebody confirm me?
Yes, we have got.
Yeah, we.
Yeah, Gibby.
I'll just wait for another 10 seconds. We'll wait for another couple of seconds. Great. Thank you so much. Now we just want to discuss on two things. One, on how do you think we can make this feature better? So like you can actually share if you have any thoughts right now, or in case you want to try it out and share, like some organizations are already using it. If you have any initial thoughts, it will be great if you can share that.
One is, I think I said it earlier as well. So the key-
Swarupa, sorry, I can't hear you.
Now can you hear me?
Yeah.
So one is like you have 10 places where we can capture the results, right? So if we have more than 10 features, so probably we can comma or hyphen, I don't know how it works, something like that to capture all the results a user is sending us. If it has more than 10 columns, then that is one thing.
Got it. Write to Google Sheets has only 10 columns as a limit. So
Yeah.
you want to address something which has more than 10 columns.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Anything else? So have you seen like a need during the interactive messages, sending of interactive messages, etc.?
You're asking me, Krishna?
Yeah, like in general.
No, we have not yet come across any such thing.
Got it. Cool. Any others? Okay, so we'll just share like a couple of guidelines on how, well, like whenever you are trying it out. One, always ensure that the first cell of the Google Sheet, like in case of read from Google Sheets, to be a key. So this is like a kind of standard thing which takes the match. So always ensure that key is with a first letter K as a capital. So that is something which we want you to be mindful about. Second thing, whenever there are more rows added, please ensure that you are syncing that particular sheet so that the rows gets updated and gets added. And second thing, when you are referring to headers from the sheet, especially in read from Google Sheets, ensure that you are using like whatever, like you can actually add any a name here, but when you're referring it, always use a snake case. So snake case is generally the all lowercase, like divide, like with no spaces or with followed by hyphen. So even if it's like a message English in this case, So when you're referring it, always refer as MSG, like MSG_ENG, so that it's in a snake case format, so that it is able to read. So these are the 3 guidelines that we want to definitely follow. Okay. And now there are a couple of announcements that we would want to make. One, the documentation structure is revamped. So like we have got like a feedback last time on how the documentation is not very easy to access to or like easy to understand. Now we have kind of created like a version 1 of the cleanup of or reorganizing of our documentation, where we had tried to put the headers which is similar to the headers on our Glific platform. So whatever the headers that you see on a Glific platform, you'll see the same headers here. And for every sheet, like for every document, you'll have like the number of minutes to read, what is the level, so that whenever there are new team members that are coming to your org, you can give this documentation, which will help them to get a better sense by seeing the platform and also learning from the documentation. And each document also have like an initial statements on how this document can be used or like how this particular feature can be used. So we are going to add more things, like we try to club some blogs and all those things as well. So we are trying to add more things on how it can be more useful. So I request you to use this documentation, share feedback with us on how we can make this better and easier for your team members, because we don't want you to spend like an hour or 2 hours time every time your new team member joins your team, or if you want to quickly refer something. So whenever you have a question, firstly, like we try to keep the documentation updated as much as possible. So whenever you find like, you have a question, just come to the documentation, search in the search bar. And if you're not finding it, then like you can definitely reach out to us on our support channel. And if you feel like, hey, this is a particular document that's not updated, that's not up to the mark, please call it out. We'll be happy to like correct it and just do it. So that's one thing which we want to share. And like the documentation on, the documentation on read and write from Google Sheets are also included in the flows. So you can just flow actions, you can check it in the link Google Sheets document. So you'll have both the documents. And also on our YouTube channel, you have all the documents, all the tutorial videos that we have put till now. All the level up with Glifics are also updated. So you can refer the tutorial videos. We try to add as much as possible that are already there in the documentation as well, so that you don't need to go. But in general, you will find all the recordings, everything here. And another thing, we have a sprint coming up in Udaipur. We also have like some organizations already registered. We would love to have more people from the organizations where you can discuss or work with the Glific team in detail, in person, and discuss more of the feature developments, the challenges that you're facing. So this is one thing which we would want to highlight. And then there's a ticketing system, like that's an upcoming feature on which we'll do a webinar next month. But it's like a ticketing system. It's more like a like if you're like reaching out to Swiggy or Big Basket, you have a ticketing system where these queries get stored in a particular format. And if you have a separate team member who takes care of these tickets, like it's like a help desk sort of things where you can mark it if it's like an open ticket, it's a closed ticket, it's resolved. So this is like a kind of, we have launched it only with a couple of organizations as a beta. So if you would want to try it out or know more before the next webinar that we do, please reach out to us on Discord or on email or me, so we can just discuss your use case and get it launched for you. Yes, that's all from our end. Anything that you want to discuss? Otherwise, yeah, we are good.